Hello, and welcome to The Edge, a show where we discuss controversial topics and problems that concern teens today. Today I'm meeting with Marissa Scullion, who is a prevention specialist at the Washington Drug and Alcohol Commission, and we will be discussing the popular trend with teens today, which is vaping, more specifically Juuling. First off, thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I'd just like to ask, how did you get into your profession?
Well, I actually got my bachelor's degree at California University in education, and I was actually substitute teaching one day, and I had a prevention specialist from Washington Drug and Alcohol Commission come into my classroom, and he was working with the third graders I was working with that day, and I saw that they had openings, and I really liked the material that they were teaching the kids. They were teaching them about respect and how to deal with their emotions and get along with others. So I applied, and it kind of went from there.
So what exactly do you do working there?
So we're a single county authority, and we are located right in Washington, right at the courthouse. And we work with all 14 school districts in the county. So I'm in charge of 4 school districts, with Peters Township being one of them. And we work as liaisons at the Peters Township High School Student Assistance Program, or called SAP. And we help students who are struggling, whether they've been caught using or need some mental health counseling, or if they have come from backgrounds of addiction. And also I teach prevention classes, not only the regular drug and alcohol classes, but I also teach about goal setting, decision-making skills, and how to respect yourself and respect others.
So getting right to our topic, why do you think vaping is so popular among teens today?
I think vaping is so popular because it's the newest trend. A lot of teens, I ask in my classes, why are you so attracted to vaping? And their number one answer is, I like the tricks that I see on Instagram, or I like the good flavors like strawberry shortcake or creme brulee, and I like the colors. So I think it's just a new fad, and they see all the flavors and the colors and the tricks that they can do with it, and I think that's definitely a starting point.
So what can parents do to help their kid if they've been caught vaping or have been known to vape in the past?
I think definitely our website, wdac.inc.org, definitely has parent toolkits and information on vaping, on different drugs and alcohol for teens. If they can go to our website, or Scholastic has some really good news articles on what vaping is and how the vape pen is constructed, and just some statistics on teens and vaping.
Okay. So moving away from parents, how does the school get help for teens who've been caught?
So whenever the school has been dealing with a student who's been using, they can refer that student to the Student Assistance Program, aka SAP. And there's a group of us full of your teachers, all your guidance counselors, the principals, administration's involved, and there's also me as a SAP liaison. We also have SPHS come in. They're a mental health facility, and they come in, and we're outside contract providers. And we come in and we meet with your SAP team about twice a month, if not every other week. And teachers, parents can refer students to SAP, and we kind of look at the students' grades, what the teachers think about them, if they've noticed any off behaviors, and then we go and get them in for a mental health assessment, or if it has something to do with drug and alcohol, I have a case manager that works with me, Bethany Hitalski, and she evaluates the student and tries to get an idea if they are using or not, and then whatever she thinks is the best idea, she refers them to different outside treatment.
So is SAP a nationwide program, or is it more of a local? Or?
Yes, every school has to have a SAP team.
Okay. So how does Juuling affect teens differently from adults, talking about nicotine in general?
Okay, so the brain actually takes 25 years to fully develop. So although the drinking age is 21, I always tell my third graders, your brain is developed enough to responsibly, drink at 21, but your brain is not fully done growing until it's 25. So for Juuling to affect teens, it affects their brain development and their learning development, because nicotine is technically a drug. So it can affect brain development.
So why are there so few studies on the effects of nicotine and juuling on a teenager?
Juuling is the most recent vape to come out. It is the strongest out of any type of vape that has come out. One pod is equal to a pack, about 1 to 2 packs worth of nicotine compared to 1 to 2 packs of cigarettes. So it's extremely dangerous, and because it is so new, I am actually working with a DEA agent who is trying to, go after the Juuling company because the drug is so, the amount of nicotine is so dangerous that it can cause so many health effects to people. And now they're making pods for, unfortunately, opioids and marijuana. So it's becoming just more than nicotine.
So most state laws require somebody to be 18 years or older to purchase nicotine products. So how are underage kids getting these?
Underage kids are getting these due to, unfortunately, the dark web and, the internet. They can order them online. There's really no strict, usually whenever you go online, you see, oh, are you 18 or older? If you just click yes, you can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, websites are doing that. So kids are getting them from websites. Sometimes, unfortunately, due to the lack of checking someone's ID, gas stations, think, oh, well, they look 18 when they really aren't. So, yeah.
So on the online, a big problem can be anybody could just say they're 18. There's no, there can be no like checking to make sure.
Yeah, depending on the website. Yeah.
So how do you think vaping became so popular so quickly? It's only been around for maybe 5-ish years, and it's really blew up.
It's really blown up because, vaping started in the beginning as, oh, well, it's a way to cut down on cigarettes. It's a way to quit smoking. Well, then there were recent studies that vaping is just as harmful as tobacco. And the Juuls kind of look like a flash drive. So I feel like teens, they're really getting popular with teens because they can take them into the schools, and not a lot of schools know what they look like. I had to bring some into one of my other school districts a couple weeks ago, and they had no idea how close it looked like to a flash drive. So the fact that it does look like a flash drive, it does have those really good flavors, and the nicotine, the amount of nicotine in there is kind of creating a negative effect for them. I asked a group of students, why do you guys like this Juul? And it wasn't just because of the tricks. It wasn't just because of the flavors or how easy you can get it into places. It was the nicotine is so heavy in those Juul pods that, unfortunately, it's creating them to have side effects of a state of being high. So I believe that's the reason why.
So do you know of any punishments for somebody who can legally purchase a Juul or nicotine anything tobacco related and selling it to somebody underage?
Because the DEA is going after the Juuls, there hasn't been too many punishments, but I feel as if once the DEA gets more involved going after the Juul company and going after, places where kids can get them, I feel like, more punishments will be developed for that.
So how big of a problem do you view it as to be today?
It's a huge issue. A lot of my schools that I work with, it's one of the biggest issues they have because not only are teens using it for nicotine, but now teens are unfortunately using it for opioid use. They can put heroin in there, oxycodone, and it's really dangerous. I know a lot more schools that I'm personally working with, they have to have Narcan on hand in case, they have opioids and Juuls. I know 2 students, I believe it was in another city, they actually overdosed on Juuls because there was opioids in them. And if that school did not have Narcan on hand, then those students would have passed. So it is a serious issue, and it's only getting worse.
So one of the things that makes teens attracted to them is that they think it's a healthier option, that it's not, there's no side effects. So why do you think people think that vaping is healthy?
I think people feel that vaping is healthier than cigarettes is because in cigarettes they usually have, rat poisoning and, those 1,000 other different types of chemicals. And in Juuls, it's that clear liquid. I hear a lot of kids say, oh, it's healthy, it's organic. There's no healthy organic fluids that you can possibly smoke, that, there's not some type of toxic chemical. Juuls and vaping in general has been found to have so many health effects. Not only the amount of carcinogens that are involved, they have just as many carcinogens as cigarettes would. That can really cause cancer. It can cause popcorn lung whenever the air sacs develop in the bronchi, and that can cause a lot of respiratory infections. And then there's wet lung, because whenever you smoke the vape adds like a moist coating in your lungs, and that can cause a lot of respiratory infections. So it is just as dangerous as tobacco.
So when I was researching juuling, I found out that many people think that vaping is just inhaling water vapor, and that's obviously not the case. So what else are they taking into their lungs?
They're taking a lot of carcinogens. Carcinogens are chemicals that can cause cancer. They're taking in pretty much, a lot of the same chemicals as tobacco would. So it is just as dangerous.
So you were talking about earlier you were talking about the nicotine levels in one Juul pod compared to a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
So how would you say that juuling is more addictive than cigarettes? How addictive would you say it is?
I think they're a lot more addictive than cigarettes, because if you think about it, 2 to 3 puffs of a Juul equals 2 to 3 cigarettes at a time. So you're inhaling all that nicotine at once, and it can cause, lightheadedness, nausea, kind of being in a state of euphoria. So it can cause nicotine poisoning in your body. And if that oil gets on your skin, it can be extremely dangerous too.
So we all know that cigarette smoke will stick to people's hair, the smell of it, stick to their clothes.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing with vaping, or does it not?
I think if you get like a specific flavor, or you have different flavors on a vape juice, it can stick to your clothes. It's not as potent as tobacco though.
Mm-hmm. So overall, does e-liquid vape juice have less chemicals than cigarettes, or would you say it's about the same?
I think it's about the same, definitely.
It's about the same?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back with you after a short break. Thank you for watching.
My grandfather served in World War II. Spending time with him were the best memories of my life. I became a physician at VA because of my grandfather, so I can help others like him. I can't imagine working with better doctors or a more dedicated staff. I'm fulfilling my life's mission with the help of my team and thanks to these veterans. I'm proud to be a doctor at VA and proud to honor my grandfather every day. Search VA Careers to find out more.
Hi, we're back with Marissa Scullion, and we're going to be continuing our discussion on vaping and juuling with teens. So, I wanted to get back real quick to the SAP process.
Yeah.
So, what else can the school do besides enrolling in the SAP process when someone's being caught?
If someone's suspected but they, haven't been caught red-handed, I actually provide intervention groups with targeted group of students who have been suspected or caught red-handed. And in those groups, it's usually 6 sessions, and we talk about not only juuling or the use of the drug that they're suspected of or caught with. We talk about alcohol, we talk about stress management, we talk about decision-making skills, and how really drugs affect the body with every body system. I teach a class called Operation Prevention. I've been working with the DEA on this curriculum, and in this curriculum, we not only, we don't believe in scaring people as a way to prevent drug abuse or alcoholism. We believe in the science behind it and educating people on how can it really affect your body when it comes to neurons and your body's messages to the brain, and how it affects each system, your circulatory system, your digestive system, your nervous system, all of the systems in your body. And we definitely focus on that in the intervention groups, which I provide to all our schools, including Peters Township, at no cost to the school.
So besides school intervention, have you had kids and students come to you out of free will needing help from being addicted?
Absolutely. We've had students who have not only who've admitted to using, we've had students, unfortunately, the amount of students I have had come to me after I complete a class, they say, I'm really dealing with having a hard time with my mom being addicted. She's overdosed, or I had my cousin overdose, and this class sometimes is really hard for me, to deal with because I have flashbacks of that time, or, I have a parent in jail, and because of opioid use and dealing. I have a lot of those students, probably at least 2 to 3 out of each class that I teach. Then I just have students who say, yeah, I use marijuana, or I do Juul, or I, have tried pills. And, it is disheartening, but the best thing I can do for them is educate them. And then I immediately refer them into the SAP process so that we can get immediate help for them.
So how long is the SAP process?
We have, with each school, I'd say with each school, there's about probably 40 to 80 cases. And it can last the whole year. It depends on how much support that student needs. So if they're referred for mental health, they get a mental health evaluation, and they get referred into counseling. That, depending on their progress, it can take up, they can stay in SAP for their entire, school career, depending on the process and the progress that they're making. With drug and alcohol, like I said, it depends on, how well they're doing and if they need extra supports.
So, out of your experiences, which age group would you say is most affected by Juuling?
I would probably say between freshmen and sophomores. Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time, I would say, was it the underclassmen? Yeah.
Yeah.
They are, experimenting. They're going into high school. It's a new world. So
They're trying to fit in.
Yeah, they're trying to fit in. So they're experimenting with things. Juuls are becoming, that gateway to different types of drugs. It's, everyone's, I have this misconception with a lot of students where they say marijuana is not the gateway drug to more drugs. It really is. You start off with, let's say, Juuling, and then, you need more of a fix. So then you go to marijuana, and then you need more of the high. It's like you're chasing that high, or you're chasing the dragon. So I'd say probably underclassmen is definitely the most popular that I've seen.
How would you say that Juuling is affecting big tobacco companies?
Juuling right now is making a ton of money in that type of industry, and I don't necessarily think it's hurting the tobacco companies. I actually think, unfortunately, that the tobacco companies see how well the vaping and the e-cigarettes are going. I personally think that they are kind of working together. So I don't necessarily think they're struggling. I think they're working, the tobacco companies with the vaping companies are kind of working together to get the same cash flow.
So why would you say that people are turning to vaping and Juuling rather than regular cigarettes when the negative side effects can be just as harmful?
Well, some people think, because there are studies how vaping is, really affecting your body. There are some other biased, studies saying that it is better than cigarettes. So, you have those pros and cons, and I think because, it doesn't have the tobacco leaf, it doesn't have the rat poison, it, is a vape, so it's like, a chemical or, a liquid going in you rather than smoke that can cause, your lungs to turn black. I think they're thinking that, oh, well, it's just a vape. It's just, a vapor going into my body. It's not heavy smoke, so it has to be healthier. A lot of people are having a misconception that it is healthier, but due to the recent studies that we've been looking up, it can be just as dangerous.
So vaping was originally started, and the goal of it was to stop cigarette smokers from smoking cigarettes and move to a potentially healthier option. So
Yeah.
why do you think students who have never smoked cigarettes before would start vaping?
You know, social media is the devil when it comes to this. You know, I hear, a lot of students, I've seen it, I do have an Instagram account, if you click on that, little magnifying glass and you look up vape tricks, there's a million of them out there. So I feel whenever people see them, they see, how they can make circles and all the other tricks that I've seen, in the videos, they think that's cool. And, they think, oh, I love that. I've had students tell me, I do this to try to do the tricks, or I do this because I can taste, strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
The vapes have so many cool colors, and unfortunately, parents give in to that because they think, well, it's not smoking cigarettes. It's kind of like a water vapor going in there, they're ingesting. So it's okay. And unfortunately, I've heard parents buying Juuls and buying vapes for their children.
For their kids.
Yeah. And, the best thing is for parents or, guardians to really become educated on this.
So how would you say that nicotine will affect a teenager, like in their later years after they become addicted? How will they affect them in the long run?
It can definitely affect their brain development, like I said, because, it does take 25 years for the brain to fully grow. It can hurt their lungs, their lung development as well. It can cause, like I said, it can be a gateway to, alcoholism or, experimenting with marijuana or other types of drugs.
So due to cigarettes being so addictive, it can be very pricey.
Yeah.
Once, because you keep going back for more. So what's do you know if it's as expensive or if it's more expensive?
I believe for a Juul, it's with the charger and everything, it's like $50. And sometimes there's 200 puffs in a Juul pod, and it can become just as pricey. That they have a huge tax on e-liquids now, so it is just as pricey as regular cigarettes.
So going back to when we were talking about the vape juice, the popcorn lung, can you dive more into what exactly that is?
So what it is whenever the vape goes into your lungs, it causes the bronchi in your lung to develop air sacs, and it actually looks like a popcorn in your lung, and that can cause like respiratory infections. It can cause, you could run out of breath faster when running. Makes it harder to, do any type of vigorous activity.
Yeah. So besides that, are there cancerous carcinogens in the Juul pod?
Absolutely.
There
Yeah.
are? Do you?
Yes.
You can go.
Go ahead.
So, with cigarettes, they have so many chemicals, like you said, rat poisoning. And on the back, I saw on the internet, it only lists about 4 ingredients in the Juul pod. So is this not true, or is it just what makes up the ingredients?
I think what makes up the ingredients definitely has the carcinogens in there that can cause, cancer and different, popcorn lung, wet lung. Like I said, wet lung is whenever the vape lines the lungs, and it has like a residue that stays on the lungs, and that can cause different types of infections or diseases.
With your SAP program and your everything you do, how many people would you say you meet with, like on a yearly basis?
So I would say I meet with about 500 to 800 students per year, and it's just not with SAP. It's with me teaching Operation Prevention that's created with the DEA. It's teaching, we have another curriculum that we use called Too Good for Drugs, which is based on decision-making skills. It touches with alcohol, marijuana, prescription opioids, and goal setting. Then I work with elementary students with curriculum called Protecting You, Protecting Me. And that shows students how to show respect to their elders and their classmates, how to deal with emotions, how to communicate with people, and use refusal skills appropriately.
So how many schools do you include in this program?
There are 14 school districts. We do work with all 14 school districts. I'm in charge of 4. So I'm in charge of Peters Township, Ringgold, Avella, and Fort Cherry school districts.
And do you meet with people how often? Is it a daily thing, a weekly?
With each SAP team, I meet with them at least twice a month, if not more. With going to each school, I'd say I go to each school between once or twice a week.
Okay. So, also in the SAP program, you say you visit with a lot of people who are teenagers and they're known to Juul. Are there also adults that visit that are addicted to cigarettes, maybe alcoholism?
Yeah, so there's two parts to Washington Drug and Alcohol Commission. So there's the prevention side, or the prevention department, which is, where I work, where we work with the schools. We also work with the communities as well. We work with senior centers. We do community events, that everyone is free and welcome to come to or participate in. And then there's the case management side, where we actually work with the jails, DUI cases, and people who are struggling with addiction, and they come in and we try to help them with as many resources as possible.
So for our last question, what would you say to a teenager who's maybe their friends use Juuling and they might get into it? What would you say advice to them?
I would definitely provide them with the resources that I have to educate a student. The thing is that I know that students are, trying to experiment and fit in, but my job is to educate them on, what can actually happen to them, the side effects, the resources that especially my agency offers, and just advise them, it's not all about fitting in, you can make the right decisions, and, just try to get them on the straight path.
So that's all the time that we've had for today. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for coming.
I appreciate it.
I'm Aidan Dowdall, and this is The Edge.